The Comet has received complaint letters after they allowed a Luton-based publisher to advertise free Qur'ans on the front and back page of the paper in what's known as a wraparound advert. Here's just a little flavour of what some readers had to say.
To see the Comet promoting a religious book that seems to be in the media every day for all the wrong reasons is totally irresponsible and could be construed as influencing religious choice. I'm utterly dismayed by this promotion and would request that you refuse such revenue opportunities from any other faith.
I was very upset. This was very disrespectful, especially with what's going on in the world. I do not have any issue with you referring to the Qur'an if shown side by side with what the Bible declares. I just hope enough people have complained and that you will either devote the same space to Christianity or apologise.
I would like to express my disgust at having religious propaganda shoved in my face. I fail to see what a modern society gains from this, and in light of events around the world, the propaganda is insensitive and pretty pointless.
What was the thinking behind this? The Comet is a local newspaper, and I was expecting local news, not to have any religion pushed down my throat. As things stand, it appears that your newspaper is pushing one religion. This is particularly unhelpful in the light of what's happening in the Middle East, and will serve to give UKIP ammunition locally.
Well, the editor of the paper says he has received a small number of complaints, and fair trade and competition legislation obliges them to accept adverts which meet their own terms and conditions of acceptance and comply with industry codes of conduct, which he says the Qur'an promotion did. He also says the paper has a good history of reporting fairly on all sections of the community and promoting harmony and greater understanding. Well, I'm interested to get your reaction to the reaction, as it were. Do you object to local papers advertising free Qur'ans on their front page? 08459 455 555 if you want to have your say. Keith Porteous-Wood is the Executive Director of the National Secular Society. Hello, Keith.
Good morning, Jonathan.
Morning. Do you object to local papers advertising free Qur'ans on their front page?
Well, not only that, but I think the newspaper itself might be in trouble if it refused to accept the adverts. I think it's a fundamental religious freedom thing, and it would be discriminatory to refuse to do it, and people don't have to take anyone up on the offer if they don't want to, as clearly the complainants didn't, and that should be the end of it, I think.
So, why do you think people are complaining? What's behind it?
I think it must be born of frustration of a lot of the violence that's happening internationally, and indeed some of the problems in this country are associated with people who are Muslim, but there are a lot of Muslims who have nothing to do with those kind of things. But I think it's because there is so much of the violence in the world is related to Muslims or people who say that they're Muslims and are inspired to the violence by their version of Islam. I guess people are just pretty frustrated about it and don't wish to see any kind of promotion of Islam because of it.
Keith, thank you very much. Keith Porteous-Wood, who's Executive Director of the National Secular Society. Dominic D'Souza is Senior Leader at Letchworth Garden City Church. Hello to you, Dominic.
Hello there, Jonathan.
Good morning. So did you write to the Comet to complain this week?
Well, I wrote to the Comet, but not to complain.
Why did you write to them?
Well, I could see that there was a lot of feeling being stirred up about it. I actually agree with the previous speaker that religious groups, so long as those advertisements and what they're wanting to put in the newspaper comply with industry practice, that they should have the right to be able to advertise. And I wanted to commend the Comet for not discriminating against religious groups in doing that. I certainly disagree with the claims being made in the advertisement, but I think that's different to saying that they shouldn't be advertising.
People are always hostile, particularly secular people are always very hostile to the idea of any religion being kind of, as they would put it, rammed down their throat. Do you think advertising a free copy of the Qur'an is in some ways doing just that? It's ramming religion down people's throats when they don't actually want it?
Well, I think every secular people, religious people, I think we all have values, and so we're always putting forward ideas. I don't think in this instance it's ramming ideas down the throat. People have got a choice how to respond. I do appreciate the point about it being placed on the front page and in a prominent part of the newspaper. That's why I felt I needed to write, just to at least say, hey, I disagree with the claims, but at the same time, if a group is willing to pay for it, then they can do that. But I think everyone has values and ideas, and one way or another, whenever we publish something, that's being promulgated in some way, shape, or form.
Dominic, stay where you are. I want to bring Steve in St Albans into the conversation. I think you might find it interesting what he says. Good morning to you, Steve.
Morning.
Morning. What's your view?
Well, it shouldn't be allowed. We're a Christian country. We should be promoting the Bible. It seems, the Christians in this country can't stand up for themselves, but yet, Islam's everywhere around the world causing trouble. And then, people wonder why people don't like Islam, because everywhere there's trouble, there's a Muslim, for whatever reason.
Well, that's really unfair. That's really unfair to blame Muslims for all the trouble in the world.
All of them. Well, you look at most of the situations. Name the one place at the moment where there isn't a Muslim involved. I don't actually know. So, on the other hand, if the Muslims in this country are so against the so-called extremists around the world in this country, why don't they actually stand up and slate them and tell them and to show to us in this country that they actually don't agree with all that's happening? They don't
Steve,
do nothing.
let me just pick you up on a couple of points you've made. Firstly, you say that this is a Christian country. Are you sure that this is still a Christian country? I thought that the vast majority of people in this country were now secular.
Well, whatever. At the end of the day, we're born into I'm not religious. Religion does my head in. But at the end of the day, we've got values here, and I'm quite happy to live by them.
Well, our values, I thought, were of religious tolerance of all kinds of different religions. I mean, we allow and absolutely accept that there are lots of different people who've got lots of different religions. And
but there's tolerance and there's stupidity tolerance, isn't there? At the end of the day, I mean, there's tolerance with people like someone who's mentally not very well. You can tolerate that because they're not very well. But when you've got people going and stretching our system, and nobody stands up to whatever reason because they're scared of the race card all the time, and it just seems in this country, the race card seems to win every time. Everyone's too scared and pussyfooting around.
Okay, Steve, thank you. Dominic, do you want to respond to the points that Steve was making? Because he may well be representing some of the people that complained.
Yeah. Well, in the last national census, 69% of the nation identified themselves as Christians. Now, I'm sure a lot of that is nominal Christianity, but at least...
I was going to say, how many of those have gone to church?
Well, that's exactly the case, the minority. But at least from that we can extrapolate that there's a mandate to maintain Christian values in our country. But one of those values, and this comes right back to the New Testament and to Jesus, is that we can disagree without being disagreeable. Now, one of the things that I actually do is I go up and down the nation teaching about Islam, and I certainly make it clear about my thoughts on the ideology of Islam, looking at the Qur'an, looking at the claims of Muhammad, showing why I believe them not to be the case or historically accurate or scientifically true as it was in this advertisement. But that's very different to discriminating against Muslims. I think the values, the Christian values of freedom, of tolerance, give us the mandate to say that Muslims have a right to say what they want to say. For sure, we can discriminate between ideas, we can discuss ideas.
Okay.
And so again, as long as it falls within guidelines, advertising guidelines, which I believe this advertisement does.
Then it's okay. Dominic, thank you very much. Dominic D'Souza, who's senior leader at Letchworth Garden City Church. I just want to squeeze Jenny in before the news. Hello, Jenny.
Oh, good morning, Jonathan.
Very briefly, what would you like to say?
I just wanted to say, I'm in Milton Keynes, and on the Easter weekend of this year, they did the same in the Milton Keynes local paper. It prickled me a bit, but I didn't take too much notice simply because I'm not religious, but it was there, back page and front page, and it was a bit insensitive really, wasn't it, on the Easter weekend.
Jenny, thank you very much for your call. If you want to drop me a line with your thoughts.